Why do you always put ketchup on everything?
Why don't you take the train?
Comment? Pourquoi tu triches tout le temps?
Pourquoi tu prends pas le train?
Pourquoi tu prends tout le temps tes selfies?
Pourquoi tu prends pas le train?
J'ai grandi dans une famille accueillante. La porte était débarrée. Dès que quelqu'un avait faim, que ce soit n'importe qui, ma mère les invitait à rentrer. Puis quand je vois des touristes ou des gens qui arrivent ici à Montréal, je veux les recevoir comme il faut. Donc, quand je prends le billet de train, je vois que c'est un nom étranger, je leur demande de quel pays ils viennent. Et à ce moment-là, je leur dis merci dans leur langue. Le sourire, les gens, ils me regardent et ils disent « Wow! Vous parlez la langue? » Je dis « Non, 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 non. J'ai appris à dire merci dans 134 langues, là, je suis rendu là. Vous voulez m'essayer? En allemand, on dit Dankeschön. Les Bretons vont dire Trucarez. En mandarin, ils vont dire Cessier, mais les Cantonais vont dire Deutsche. Congo, on peut dire accenté, Matondo, Mélissi, tu vois ce qu'il dit là. Les Danois vont dire Tak. Dans le Caucase, Madloba. Continue, en italien. En Nakumik. Maori vont dire Tenakutu. Pensez-vous que je peux être dans le livre des records Guinness? J'aimerais ça le travailler. Aidez-moi.
Why do you always put ketchup on everything?
Why don't you take the train?
Comment? Pourquoi tu triches tout le temps?
Pourquoi tu prends pas le train?
Pourquoi tu prends tout le temps tes selfies?
Pourquoi tu prends pas le train?
J'ai grandi dans une famille accueillante. La porte était débarrée. Dès que quelqu'un avait faim, que ce soit n'importe qui, ma mère les invitait à rentrer. Puis quand je vois des touristes ou des gens qui arrivent ici à Montréal, je veux les recevoir comme il faut. Donc, quand je prends le billet de train, je vois que c'est un nom étranger, je leur demande de quel pays ils viennent. Et à ce moment-là, je leur dis merci dans leur langue. Le sourire, les gens, ils me regardent et ils disent « Wow! Vous parlez la langue? » Je dis « Non, 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 non. J'ai appris à dire merci dans 134 langues, là, je suis rendu là. Vous voulez m'essayer? En allemand, on dit Dankeschön. Les Bretons vont dire Trucarez. En mandarin, ils vont dire Cessier, mais les Cantonais vont dire Deutsche. Congo, on peut dire accenté, Matondo, Mélissi, tu vois ce qu'il dit là. Les Danois vont dire Tak. Dans le Caucase, Madloba. Continue, en italien. En Nakumik. Maori vont dire Tenakutu. Pensez-vous que je peux être dans le livre des records Guinness? J'aimerais ça le travailler. Aidez-moi.
Bonjour,
Hello.
and welcome to Via Rail's annual public meeting webcast. My name is Jean-François Legault. I am the Chief Legal and Risk Officer and Corporate Secretary of Via Rail Canada, and I will be your host this afternoon. Pour une cinquième année consécutive,
For a fifth consecutive year, we're hosting this meeting as a webcast to reach as many Canadians as possible. For the first time this year, we're pleased to announce that the webcast is translated simultaneously and can be viewed entirely in English or in French. To choose your language, please click on the headphone icon.
can be watched in either English or French. Please click on the headphone icon to choose your language. Over the next hour, we will be hearing from Françoise Bertrand, our newly appointed Chairperson of the Board of Directors, Yves Desjardins-Siciliano, the President and CEO, and Patricia Jasmin, our Chief Financial Officer. We will be reviewing the financial results from 2016 and the first quarter of 2017, and will also discuss the many initiatives launched by the corporation in the past year. Following the speeches, there will be a question and answer period. In response to the survey feedback provided after last year's webcast, we are increasing the amount of time allocated to answer your questions. Pour toute question concernant Via Rail,
For any questions concerning Via Rail, please write us at viarail.ca or Twitter using the Via Rail hashtag. We'll not be able to answer all of your questions for the next hour, but a Q&A document will be published on the website in the coming weeks. And this webcast will be published on Via Rail's YouTube channel tomorrow.
now to introduce our first speaker, Françoise Bertrand, our Chairperson of the Board of Directors. Madame Bertrand.
Bonjour. Good afternoon. Merci de prendre le temps de vous joindre à nous.
Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I am proud to be here today representing the Board of Directors at Via Rail's annual public meeting.
Annual public meeting as Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Via Rail. And it is an honor to be joining the ranks of this Canadian institution. Public services in Canada, such as the train, are imperative to a healthy economy and to connecting the communities across our vast country. As Chairperson and as a proud Canadian, I will do my best to represent the public's best interests and to help Via Rail evolve further as part of Canada's sustainable future. Via Rail est ancré dans
Via Rail is part of the Canadian tradition for more than 40 years, transporting almost 4 million people to hundreds of communities across Canada. Our trains support socioeconomic development and are a safe, accessible, and ecological way for travelers of all ages who wish to discover our country. This year, more than ever, while we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of Canadian Confederation, we're reminded of the role of passenger rail played in the development of communities from coast to coast. The promise of a transcontinental railway was instrumental in bringing our country together and building our country, and Via Rail is proud to continue to unite the country.
Especially exciting time to be coming on board. 3 years ago, Via Rail shifted its strategy to focus on the customer, and since then the corporation has seen remarkable growth. Both revenues and ridership have been steadily increasing. You'll hear more details about last year's results soon, but it's clear that this strategy has been incredibly successful, with passengers and customer satisfaction also increasing over this period. Maybe the best reason for this growth can be found in the significant increase in employee engagement. In Budget 2017, the Government of Canada allocated $867.3 million to finance Via Rail's operation and capital requirements for the next 3 years. Combined with additional funding that has already been confirmed, this represents over $1.3 billion of investment in our company. As Via Rail is dedicated to being part of Canada's sustainable transportation system, we were thrilled to receive this funding, and we are encouraged by the government's trust in commitment towards Via Rail. Over the next 5 years, in collaboration with the Government of Canada and Via Rail's employees, I plan to help this company continue to play a leading role in the Canadian intercity transportation system. I will prioritize sustainable mobility to make Via Rail not only more environmental, but also smarter, more inclusive, and a contributor to the mobility of sustainable cities and communities in Canada. I will also continue our strategy to increase ridership while fulfilling Via Rail's mandate to provide a safe, efficient, affordable, and accessible passenger transportation service for all Canadians. In closing, I want to offer my sincerest congratulations to everyone who contributed to Via Rail's success last year, from our passengers to our exceptional Via Rail employees who always go to the extra mile. I would also like to thank the Board of Directors for their hard work and dedication, especially Jane Mowat, who led the board for the past 13 months. Je me réjouis de travailler avec vous tous et faire de...
I'm looking forward to make 2017 another very successful year. Thank you.
Bonjour, mon nom est Yves.
Hello, my name is Yves Desjardins Siciliano, and I have the great honor of being the president and CEO of Via Rail.
Meeting, and again, I've got great news, both looking back to 2016 and looking forward to 2017 and the years to come. Starting with 2016, the results continue to be phenomenal. En effet,
in fact, in 2016, once again, the revenues and ridership of Via Rail continued growing. It has now been 3 consecutive years that we've had a growth in our company. We are in the public transportation that is more and more popular, helped by a generational change where many Canadians will be 65 years old and more, and a younger generation with a greener heart who choose public transportation, of which we are an essential part.
Move is on. More and more Canadians, whether they're older or younger, are choosing public transport, especially to move beyond our cities across this vast country. People always ask me, how do you explain such growth month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year? I only have one answer: our employees. Over the past 12 months, our employee engagement survey has shown that the engagement of our employees has grown 6%. The previous year, you'll recall, that growth was 5%. Ainsi, au cours des 2 dernières années,
over the last few years, the growth in engagement is totaling 11%. It is through this engagement that each employee, whether it's in maintenance centers and on the phone, who every day do their best to offer customers an excellent experience that can explain the growth of our revenue and our ridership. And so on behalf of all our passengers and all the colleagues, I would first like to thank these employees for their dedication.
Passengers are showing their love as well by coming more often to our trains and recognizing the true value of our services. But before I go any further, let's talk about 2017. As a proud Canadian, I'm proud to be the CEO of such a great institution in the year that Canada celebrates its 150th anniversary. Tomorrow in Montreal, I'll be hosting a meeting with colleagues from the International European Union of Railroads. And obviously for them, 150 years is a very young country and a very young company indeed. But for us, it's an opportunity to show the world what the world already knows. The world knows no boundaries when it comes to its need for a place like Canada. Et dans ce pays, nous avons...
And in this country, we built a passenger railway that united us from the very beginning of our confederation, and which today will bring a lot of our citizens to develop a feeling of belonging, an even greater feeling of belonging for this country. That's why with a lot of pride we've decorated our stations and our trains in order to remind all Canadians that we are privileged to be Canadians. We are privileged to live in such a great, such a prosperous, and such a safe country, and a country that respects diversity and its personal wealth. That's why throughout the year we've created partnerships where we commit to supporting all kinds of different initiatives to celebrate Canada from Halifax to Vancouver. And one of these most remarkable initiatives is the Canadian 150 Youth Pass.
Happily or sadly, that we introduced the Canada 150 Youth Pass that had such great demand that it crashed all the systems at VIA, whether it be the phone systems or the computer systems. So we had a very tough 24 hours recovering from a great idea and making sure that we could answer the demand. And although we had planned to only sell 1,867 of those passes to celebrate Canada's founding year, we ended up selling over 4,200. And so we can all rejoice in a good idea gone bad, knowing that 4,200 young Canadians are about to embark on a journey in the month of July to make new memories by which they will remember where they were in 2017. Et ainsi, grâce à ce produit,
and thanks to this product, we can count on a new generation of Canadians who will discover the train and who will discover how we can and why we can be proud of being Canadians.
In 2016, many improvements were brought about. We changed some elements of our uniforms to make them brighter and easier for passengers to spot employees, especially in very busy stations. En plus, nous avons modifié nos repas.
We've also modified our meals in economy class as well as the business class. And finally, we launched a series of improvements in the stations to make them greener, more accessible, and more user-friendly. We have also added more frequencies on the most popular services. Between Quebec, Montreal, and Ottawa corridor, we went from 10 to 40 frequencies per week for this new link this new direct link through Montreal, Ottawa, and Quebec. And the result was immediate. More than 17% increase in ridership.
Quebec City through Montreal in one direct service and reducing the time to destination by an hour, we created 17% more passengers for that service. Adding frequency builds ridership. Between Toronto and Ottawa, we also added frequencies, going from 97 to 104 frequencies a week. And again, the ridership went up by over 10%. Again, the message is ridership is totally dependent on frequency. Plus on ajoute de fréquences,
the more we add frequencies, the more ridership increases. Why? Because frequencies are the main reason why people do not take the train and choose their car, which is always available.
if it is almost as available as their car. And the only way to make a train as available or as close to being available as your car is by adding frequencies. And so we've demonstrated again last year that adding frequencies will drive growth in ridership. We've also, last year, marked our spot in the global challenge of climate change. We published our Sustainable Mobility Report, where we make our commitments with regards to the 17 commitments that nations all over the world have made with regards to creating a sustainable planet, where we intend to act by reducing our carbon footprint, by enhancing ourselves as an employer, by reducing the carbon footprint of travelers in Canada. Et c'est à travers ces engagements contenus dans
And it's through these commitments in the Sustainable Mobility Report that we trust that Via Rail can increase its relevancy and its contribution in improving Canada's social, economic, and environmental footprint, and humbly, its contribution to the future of the planet.
Well, the results are just the same as 2016. Growth in revenue and growth in ridership that continues despite an on-time performance that is still below our standard of 85% plus at 77%. So we are continuing to see more people coming on our trains for longer journeys, and that is why revenue continues to increase beyond ridership growth. Donc, le premier trimestre est...
So the first quarter is just as positive as 2016. So let's look forward. Since 2012, under the leadership of my predecessor, Mr. Laliberté, we started an intermodal strategy with many partners with whom we offer combined services, plane, bus, train, from the Maritimes all the way to Western Canada. In 2014, we've grown our service offering by focusing on the client, as our board president said, by simplifying services, by making the services more available, more flexible, by increasing accessibility to our stations and to our trains, and by offering a service where people feel not only welcome, but well treated, which has them come back to ride on our trains. Our next challenges are twofold. First and foremost, interoperability. At a time when Canada is growing in terms of passenger rail services, it is important for providers to get together in order to maximize the use of these rare resources. So this young country has the opportunity of going from downtown to downtown. We are the envy of all countries in the world. By being such a young country, we had an opportunity from Washington to Montreal to Vancouver to establish our rail stations in the heart of downtown areas at a time when many of us use these, we must use the effectiveness through the sharing of these infrastructures with different players.
Countries like Japan, where frequency and speed is the hallmark of passenger rail services. It is also the habit of train operators all over Europe. North America, it's time to get on with it and maximize the value of those rare footprints that rail infrastructure have in our downtown cores by sharing those infrastructure. So that is a task that we're on with regards to our second imperative, the high-frequency rail project of VIA. Plusieurs d'entre vous auront entendu parler du train à grande...
Many of you have heard about the high-frequency train, which will link the main cities of Quebec, Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto, and the cities in between these different urban centers through a rail service exclusively dedicated to passenger, via rail passengers or passengers from other different services, but only passenger services. This was submitted to the federal government in December, and the government is analyzing this project as we speak, and I hope that we will get a very positive response soon. The second aspect is the renewal of used in the corridor.
The oldest in North America. Its major workhorse in the Quebec-Windsor corridor is a fleet that was built in the 1970s, early 80s, and therefore needs to be replaced. We've submitted our proposal for that replacement to the government at the end of 2016, and we're also hoping for good news in this regard sometime later this year. Equipped with a new fleet that can run on a dedicated corridor, we believe we'll be able to triple the ridership of Via Rail by being more useful, more relevant to more Canadians. And we will also be able to attract investment because this service will now become profitable just by the sheer numbers of its passengers. But now that we've got a plan for the short term, it's time to look to the future on a longer-term view. Et c'est pourquoi nous avons développé.
And it's why we've developed Destination 2025. We will then start looking at the future of electric cars, car sharing, driverless cars, regional trains, intercity and municipal interoperable transportation to try to create the future.
After 35 years as being an executive in many companies, is as hard as we can try, the future is always better than our wildest dream. But for that future to happen, you got to start by having a dream. And so we are charting that course today through Destination 2025. And over the next few months, we will be sharing that with all of you as we unfold how we will make our services better connected, more personalized to you, the traveler, more collaborative with our partners and our own employees, and ultimately, socially, economically, environmentally, more sustainable for a better Canada. Thank you very much for listening. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you for your attention, and I will come back later for the question and answer period.
Between now and 2025, there's many things that are going to be changing drastically. As a corporation, we need to be able to adapt and anticipate our passengers' needs to meet the needs of 2025. Therefore, we need to be forward-thinking.
So we have to create an environment, and that is the challenge that we have, is create an environment where everyone feels free to have an idea, to voice a concern, to voice an opinion, because he or she believes that we're all in this together.
The outcome of today's brainstorm would be an opportunity for people to let go and start dreaming again.
Il faut prendre le temps de s'intéresser à nos clients parce qu'on est ultimement nous-mêmes des clients du service de transport. Donc, il faut comprendre ce qu'on voudrait recevoir comme service. Puis, l'innovation, c'est être à l'affût des possibilités, de comment améliorer les choses.
Ce qui me rend fière de VIA 2025, en fait, c'est qu'on en a fait un processus qui était inclusif. On est allé voir chacune des unités d'affaires, on a eu des discussions avec eux et vraiment, le résultat qu'on va produire comme vision reflète l'ensemble des gens à l'intérieur de la corporation de VIA Rail. Alors, ce qu'on va déterminer, c'est les grands axes de notre vision, ce que VIA Rail veut se retrouver dans l'écosystème en 2025.
VIA Rail doit devenir une entreprise vraiment axée sur le client. C'est vraiment ça ma plus grande aspiration. Le fait qu'on vous transporte dans un train du point A au point B, c'est comment on fait ce qu'on fait. Mais ce qu'on fait vraiment, c'est vous donner une expérience de vie à travers le transport qui est unique, qui est la meilleure et qui fait que non seulement vous vous sentez bienvenu, mais parce que vous vous sentez bien traité, vous revenez plus souvent.
Bonjour.
Hello, my name is Patricia Jasmin, and I am VIA Rail's Chief Financial Officer. I am pleased to share with you the financial results for 2016, another successful year for VIA.
To those of 2015. This year again, this increase was the result of capacity adjustment to better align with customer demand and of price adjustment to reflect market value. In addition, we have made some modifications to our schedule to better answer customer needs. Dans l'ensemble, les revenus de VIA Rail pour 2000.
Overall, VIA Rail's revenues for 2016 amounted to $324 million. This includes passenger revenues of just over $301 million, plus $23 million in revenues from railway stations and third parties. The increase in revenue was due to an improved service offering, including the addition of capacity in the Eastern Corridor and in the Canadian Prestige class, to changes to our train schedules and aggressive marketing campaigns, including award-winning campaigns, The Joy of Winter Traveling, launched in the winter of 2016, and Why Don't You Take the Train, launched last fall. Our operating expenses were $554 million, an increase of 6.6% compared to 2015. This increase is due to the departures we have added to the Eastern Corridor and the increased capacity in the Prestige class, and the amounts invested in two key initiatives, the project to renew our fleet and the dedicated track project. In 2016, the operation loss before contributions to pensions and employee benefits was $230 million, a slight increase of 3.6% from previous years. Contributions to our pension and employee benefit plans totaled $37 million in 2016, compared to $58 million in 2015. This is mainly due to the fact that the financial position of our pension plans have once again improved this year, which resulted in a reduction in the amount of contributions to be paid out. This decrease in spending allowed us to reduce government funding to $267 million, nearly $13 million less than the previous year. In 2016, the government subsidy represented 45% of our total operating expenses, an improvement of 3 percentage points from 2015, which means that once again this year, VIA Rail has reduced its dependency on non-taxpayers' money. And we're very happy to have reached it again this year. Now, when it comes to capital investments, VIA has invested $91 million in our assets in order to improve services to our passengers. Most of these investments were made in the following projects: $27 million for major infrastructure projects, primarily for the infrastructure between Montreal and Ottawa. $18 million for information technology projects, such as our customer relationship management system, improvements to our booking system, automation of services on our trains, and compliance with payment cards industry standards. And finally, $14 million for the upgrade of our fleets.
Continue in 2015 was, as we expected, even stronger in 2016. While we wait for the government decision on our two major proposed projects, the fleet renewal and dedicated track, VIA will continue its transformation to become a sustainable, personalized, and connected organization. The additional funding received by the government in the last federal budget will allow us to complete this transformation. Merci. Thank you.
Moi, j'apporte ma laine, j'aime à tricoter.
I'm the sort of type to talk to the person next to me.
Une paire de pantoufles, aller-retour.
I'm sure that person has enough stories to fill the time.
Quand je peux en train lire un livre qui m'amène dans un autre voyage, c'est le bonheur total.
En ce moment, je suis sur Snapchat. It used to be sleeping. Cheese!
I'm reading a book on Buddhism.
Un livre en français parce que je voyage à Québec.
It's actually called Buddha Walks into a Bar.
Un théologien russe, Vladimir Soloviev.
I actually work because now I'm productive.
What do you like to do on the train?
Bounce and jump and run.
That's not a train activity, though.
Merci, Madame Jasmin.
Thank you, Madame Jasmin, for this summary results.
In receiving questions from the public, this year the feedback has been unprecedented. In fact, as of this morning, we had received almost 600 questions. We are thrilled that so many Canadians are interested in Via Rail. Many of these questions were on similar themes, and so we have organized them into top 10 topics. J'invite maintenant notre président.
I would now like to invite our president to discuss the top 10 subjects that are of interest to you.
Jean-François.
Thank you, Jean-François.
Topics as submitted by the close to 600 questions received to date. In no particular order, first question is, when will we have Wi-Fi on the Canadian that goes from Toronto to Vancouver? Well, as you can suspect, the journey between Toronto and Vancouver goes through a lot of wooded areas, and many of which don't have cellular coverage. As Via Rail's Wi-Fi service is dependent on the availability of Wi-Fi coverage, until today, it had been decided not to provide Wi-Fi on board the Canadian. But thanks to overwhelming demand and our commitment to ensure that the passenger experience is always enhanced, I'm pleased to announce that we will be providing a Wi-Fi connection on the Canadian over the coming months. Obviously, some part of the journey, the service will not be available as there is no cellular coverage. But we'll provide enough information for passengers to know where coverage is available in extended metropolitan areas and how they can enjoy connectivity and when they prefer privacy, not be connected on the Wi-Fi service. La 9e question a à voir avec le service de Gaspé. Ce service fait...
Next question, what about services to Gaspé? This service was interrupted because of infrastructure updates. So we were asked when we will bring Via Rail services back to Gaspé. Many of you know that the government of Quebec have announced an investment of more than $700 million in this infrastructure to update it for merchandise services that are so important for the economic development of the Gaspé region. As soon as these investments are finished in 2 or 3 years, we will proceed to an inspection of the rail infrastructure, and if it is safe, we will bring back passenger services. Let's be clear that our intention has always been to serve the wonderful region of Gaspé that offers among the best landscape views in the world, but safety must be a priority. As soon as the infrastructure work has been completed, we will do our inspection, and if the rail is safe, we will bring the service back, we hope, to Gaspé by 2019.
Why is train travel so costly? I had to read that question at least twice. I cannot see how train travel is costly when you can go from Montreal to Toronto for $44. That is cheaper than parking in Toronto, let alone paying for gas. Le voyage en train...
Train travel, of course, has certain costs tied to the infrastructure on which it operates, as well as the equipment itself and the employees on board. But honestly, at $33 between Montreal and Quebec and a minimum of $44 between Montreal and Toronto, I cannot think that this service is too expensive. And that's why we are investing in value-added services so that Canadians can see a real value that is equal to our intention. In other words, an unique customer experience.
My father always told me, when you pay little, you get what you pay for. That is not what we want for this service. We want this service to reflect Canadian values, Canadian products, Canadian experience. And we believe that the current pricing regime is low enough, affordable enough, and when you add to it the discount prices for seniors, for youth, for students, past products, we believe it is a fair price. Talking about pricing, I've been asked why and what is our plan for enhancing senior travel by providing greater senior discounts. The sad news is, at VIA, a senior is defined by anyone who's 60 years or older. Obviously, I find that a bit too young to be called a senior, but I accept my faith. Seriously though, today we offer 10% off on the economy fare. Our plan, recognizing that there are more and more Canadians who qualify for the senior discount, is to come up with more aggressive offers that offer more opportunities to travel for seniors in Canada and across the country. One of the things that seniors have most is time and relationships that they have built throughout their lives across this country. Therefore, we want them to use that time to maintain those relationships and visit their friends and family across the country. Over the coming months, you will see new products being introduced targeting specifically Canadian seniors. Question numéro 6.
Question number 6. Will there be more Canada 150 youth passes? As I mentioned earlier, our intention was to offer 1,867 passes that offer unlimited experiences for travel in July. But due to technical issues, more than 4,200 passes were awarded. So at this stage, we will probably not be able to offer similar passes in the next few months. Please know that these 4,200 pass holders have reserved more than 7 segments of travel.
Kings have booked on average 7 trips in the month of July. Therefore, we have to keep in mind that although it's 4,200 passes, it's thousands more trips. And therefore, we have to maintain the cap on that 4,200 youth passes. So again, sorry for those of you who missed out, but we do invite you to try running on VIA through your university sessions, as we offer student passes for the semesters that afford you unlimited travel within the corridor of your university and your home for, again, a very affordable price. Question number 5. What about providing seat selection or menu selection for food online at time of booking? Well, that's a great idea. The problem is our current reservation system that date back to the past century is not capable of offering that capability. What we do provide is the ability to book your seat through a call to our call center. Obviously, it is not as productive and efficient as doing it online, and we recognize that. However, we are working right now on selecting a new reservation system that over the coming years would be deployed and would provide the latest world-class services expected of modern travelers, such as seat selection, menu selection, and other amenities. Cette question est très pertinente.
This question is very relevant, but it belongs to the future years at Via Rail. Our current systems do not allow seat selection or meal selection online before your departure. But to select your seats, you can call our customer call center, which isn't as effective but is still available when it's important to you. For question number 4, what about new schedules or frequencies in 2017? We are continually looking for new opportunities to increase our frequencies in partnership with the owners of rail
freight services operators. We understand that it's important for freight trains to be on schedule, since these trains are tied to Canadian prosperity.
So this situation is very sensitive, which must combine Canada's economic efficiency as well as the willingness of more and more Canadians to travel by train. This week, we will announce new frequencies and new stops, among others in Saint-Hyacinthe, and we've already introduced new frequencies between Ottawa and Quebec City. So, new frequencies this year, yes, we will always have some. However, it will never be as fast as we would like, nor everywhere we would like to add frequencies.
Serving communities like Windsor and Sarnia, London, Stratford, St. Mary's, all these communities on southwest Ontario, and better the communities of eastern Canada. However, access to infrastructure is limited by the importance of moving freight on Canada's railways. And so it is a delicate balance between minimizing the impact on the Canadian economy while enhancing the opportunity for Canadian travelers to do the smart choice and travel by train. But you should expect more frequencies this year between Ottawa and Quebec City, as well as new stops along the current lines. What about a new train fleet? As I mentioned earlier in my speech, we have tabled with the government a plan to replace the LRC fleet, the 96 cars that operate in the Quebec-Windsor corridor, as well as the rest of that fleet, which is also anywhere between 30 and 50 years old, by a new modern fleet to run on the current infrastructure. We've doubled that with the high-frequency rail project, and so we're hoping to get news on this requirement sometime later this year. Clearly, the demand shown by our passengers justifies continued investment. We're very encouraged by the federal government's budgets of 2016 and 2017 that continue to invest in Via Rail, and therefore we remain cautiously optimistic that a positive decision will come with regards to the fleet in the coming months. Le train à grande fréquence.
When is the high-frequency rail service? Well, of course, we've started promoting this idea in September 2014. And many of you have been following this debate, as well as the support from the municipalities, from the federal, provincial governments that support the willingness to increase rail passenger services throughout Canada and in the Quebec-Windsor corridor. And once again, as I mentioned, we've submitted our plan to the federal government. The government has already mentioned its intention to invest billions of dollars in infrastructures in Canada. And so we think that Via Rail is very well positioned to get a public policy strategy wanting Canadians to leave their cars and adopt a public transportation system that is greener, safer, and more productive for the Canadian economy.
That 3 to 4 times the number of passengers we have today will take this service within a very short time of its offering. Keep in mind that every time we've introduced a new frequency over the last 3 years, we increased passengers and ridership on those individual frequencies. Let me say that again. Every time we introduced a new frequency on a service, let's say Ottawa-Toronto, the total ridership of Ottawa-Toronto services increased immediately, not later, immediately. We believe with high-frequency rail, the same will happen. As the service is introduced, ridership will increase immediately, exponentially, because Canadians want to get out of their cars and choose a more economical, productive, efficient, environmentally friendly, and safe mode of transport. So we have high hopes for the coming months. Et la dernière question, can't we do better? Well, hell yeah, we could do better. And we have done better. Since 2014, this company has saved the government of Canada $45 million in terms of reducing its deficit annually. It has grown its ridership single digit, grown its revenue double digit, grown its employee engagement double digit, and has grown its customer satisfaction. So we're not there yet. Like train travel, business building and growth is a journey. We are not a destination, nor do we plan to ever be a destination. But we are committed to improving day by day, service by service, employee by employee, to the point where most Canadians will not only love VIA, they'll use VIA. Alors, pour répondre à cette question,
so to answer this question, we still have a long way to go, but we've already accomplished a lot. We have a well-established plan, and we're very confident that if 2017 marks the 150th anniversary of Canada, while we will enter 2018, which will celebrate the combination of the CNCP rail service that created Via Rail in 2018, will certainly be the year of a new departure for intercity services in Canada. Thank you for your attention.
Merci, Monsieur Desjardins-Siliano.
Thank you, Mr. Desjardins-Siliano. C'est tout le temps que nous avons maintenant pour la période de questions-réponses aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup d'avoir pris le temps de nous écrire. J'aimerais remercier Françoise Bertrand, Yves Desjardins-Siciliano pour leur participation aujourd'hui.
À nous en ligne pour leur participation à notre Assemblée publique annuelle de 2017. Nous vous invitons à remplir un sondage afin de nous transmettre vos commentaires. Chez Via Rail, l'opinion de nos clients nous tient.
At Via Rail, the opinion of our customers are important to us, and we greatly appreciate your feedback. You will access it by clicking on the box designated for this purpose on the web page that you are at the moment. Have a great afternoon.